just, one way to think about me is I'm a former product leader at a bunch of different companies. And now I really think of myself as a teacher. I'm really trying to be helpful as many people as I can in a leveraged way.
All right, so it's a great kickoff question here, Gib. On a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 sucks, what is your overall job career satisfaction? Go.
I mean, I've had my year last year was a 9. I feel badly to say that, but I almost skied my age and days last winter, and then COVID hit hard, and I made a very aggressive pivot. So I went from my plan was to do 80 talks in the year, and because I didn't have to travel, I went all the way up to 120, which generates 40 paid activities. So that was great for me, a great year. COVID, was layered anxiety for me, like always. And then my daughter, Kelsey, is 25. She's first year med school at Harvard, but she has some health issues. So I actually lived on the East Coast for 3 months. So those two things were in the background, like everyone. But I really feel really good about my year. So what's your number, Barry?
God, I probably, I hate saying 7, so I'm actually going to say 6. But then I'm going to say 8, because I think it was a bit of a two-sided story for me as well. Like personally, I had another son in April. And it's always a special time. It was right in the middle of the COVID pandemic as well. And yet, it was a really interesting and safe experience. Actually, UCSF and San Francisco were phenomenal in terms of how they helped us there. But the challenge is, I think, as for two working parents with very young children, and being at home with COVID and the stop-start scenarios, it was really tough, and I went through a lot of these feelings of frustration, both sometimes frustration because I couldn't work on the things I wanted to focus on, and then frustrated because I'm angry at myself for not, spending more time with my kids and enjoying that time. So it's definitely been a hard sort of back and forth through this sort of period. I've definitely learned a lot about, myself and what I enjoy and how to get a better balance between work and home. But it was definitely a tough time to sort of settle through that. But the fun things though, that I did get to work on a project which was actually going back and sort of reevaluating. My business is 5 years old this year, and one of the things I really wanted to do was create and update my brand to like really reflect what I've learned through that time and my values and my personality, and that was my plan to do that over the summer at the start of the year. So COVID actually gave me time to really explore that, and I think that was actually something I've really enjoyed and really helped me actually, both in terms of figuring out what I want to do, but also reflecting that to other people. So that's probably a little bit of a 6 or 8, which is a terrible answer, but I think it sort of felt like a year like that.
It was, you're proud of yourself for getting through lots of challenges, including a second kid in the household. But the reality is a tough year. So 8 on the optimistic scale and 6 on the 2020 stuff.
Nice.
Can I try out my camp model on you?
Please, yeah.
So I'm full of models that spell stuff, but the C is for sort of community and social. The A is for autonomy. The M is for essentially mastery and learning, and the P is for purpose. So your community and social relationships on a 0 to 10, what was that?
Actually, that's really high. I think 9.
That's awesome. Okay, how about autonomy?
Probably lower, actually. That's probably closer to the 6. I didn't feel as in control.
That's interesting, because as a solopreneur, you expect a high number. So why was it lower?
Well, I think it's this managing the bit, like solopreneur. It's me. It's a holistic. It's not just a business. It's my personal life. And I think managing that balance was very, very tough.
Okay, so your life was not your own.
You know it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, how about mastery and learning?
So I think I give myself maybe a 6 here again, because I one area I really wanted to dive into more was a greater understanding of machine learning and artificial intelligence area. So I didn't get to go as deep on that, but I learned a lot about myself through this last year. So I'll give myself a few points for that.
What's your number, 0 to 10?
Oh, 6.
Okay. And just so you know, I'm always wishing an 8 for everyone on every one of these questions, right? But the interesting thing is next year, your autonomy will shoot back up, right? By September, you'll feel like you have more control of your life.
Well, one of the things I love that you do, and I've seen in your posts, is that you track this stuff over time. And I'm definitely going to try and practice that habit of measuring and monitoring more of these feelings that you're sort of describing here over time. I think it's a great method.
So you want to ask me the questions, or I can answer my own questions?
Yeah,
so,
go shoot. Yeah.
Community social. This is. I mean, I have very high social needs, and that's why I loved working at companies and building teams. It's been really interesting how the extent to which I've been able to replace that, with social in the community, with people like you. So I'd give that like an 8. The autonomy for me was definitely a 9. The mastery and learning, the thing I'm proudest of is I spent most of the year trying to figure out how to create an online experience that rivaled an in-person experience, largely for my talks and workshops. And I figured out how to do that. So my net promoter score for online stuff is equal to in-person, generally in the 70s. And then purpose, I'm trying to provide help to product leaders all over the world in a leveraged way. I feel good about that. I mean, I definitely like that focus. It's an 8 or maybe a 9. The challenge to that is the in a leveraged way. So for instance, I know everybody needs a coach, a mentor, but I don't really want to have all those one-on-one conversations. That's not leveraged. You with me?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it resonates and really interesting to hear. So reflections then on the last sort of past year for you then, right? So yeah. What didn't go so well for you, Gib? What were some of the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, I mean, so my challenge is, frankly, I've had this my whole life, my whole career. It's about how effectively you self-manage yourself. And everybody does the things that they love to do, but they don't quite have the discipline to do the important things that they don't love to do. So it's my kind of guilt list, if you will. I really have got to get some focus on, writing a frickin' book. Okay. And I've written like 3/4 of it through my Medium posts, etc. But that's probably the most impactful thing I could do to be helpful at scale, and also to sort of push up to the next level of credibility. It just makes it easier for me to get the big talks and the workshops. So that's kind of on my guilt list. Another thing is Near Ayal, he's a pal of mine. He said, Gib, treat email addresses like dollar bills. He's like, you idiot, you're not collecting them. So I finally started collecting them like the last 2 months of the year. But I procrastinated on that front. What else is on my guilt list? I kind of do the goofy dad brand, like my website, I refer to it as my baby website. It's not polished. It's not professional. It doesn't look like a professional product person's. Like, well, should I upgrade that? Those are some of the questions on my mind, but they're the things that I don't naturally like to pay attention to and focus on.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And so from that, like, Gib, some of these are things you can do yourself. Some of them you get help with. One of the things I've definitely, on my guilt list, are definitely something at the start of the year was top of mind for me was, I'm shorter and shorter of time, and I'm trying to scale and scale and scale, right? And this notion of figuring out like where's the best places for me to spend my limited time to get leverage, and how can I start building up or pushing stuff out to other people around me or support people to help creating some of these things. So, is that something you've explored, or where's your head with that?
Good insight. So I have a helper in Madrid named Damon. He really upgraded my slides, which applies to everything I do. I built my own baby website on Squarespace. I did find a speaking coach, Lauren, who was super helpful 3 years ago. Honestly, I don't need her help anymore. I just got a kind of writing coach. But it's a good question. I really love the simplicity of not having a team and worrying about a team. So that gives me ultimate control of my time. And so I think I should hire somebody to build a better website, right? And I probably should get a knowledgeable, experienced person to help me with the path towards the book, right? So I don't know why I've procrastinated on this, but I think I can do better on it next year. Okay, so tell me about your, you asked me the hard question. What went worse this year? Where could you fundamentally do better?
Well, for me, I think this point of like trying to actually flip my time is really, really important for me. I think I've really struggled initially, especially I think when I was building the business, that I felt like I had to do everything. I had to actually be too close to things, which meant, to your point of like, I spent times on activities that feel good, but are they really where I should be working, right? And classic social media, feels great to go on and read tweets and send a few tweets and, hey, I've done some activity today, but like, is that really? Yeah, right. It's the dopamine zone. I'm just going to go get some dopamine hits over here and a few likes, and people share some things, and I'll feel like I've done a great day. But that's not what I need to be focusing on if I'm, and so I think it's always for me, like trying to own that and sort of say to myself, come on, Barry, this isn't where you need to be focusing. I think that was to hold myself accountable was a huge thing. And again, the reason I asked about the team, because again, that was another big breakthrough for me this year, is really like building up this team of people who can support me. And they're all gig workers. Nobody is a full-time employee. And I've created this sort of global group of people, from people in Croatia to the Philippines to in Canada and North America, South America, who all do very specific jobs for me. And they're all independent, and they've all never met each other, but, they sit on my own Slack channel, and we're like building, the whole brand was created by this group of people, globally distributed, that never met anyone. And I think that's something I'm probably was a shock to me, because I was fighting that for so long. And so that was sort of a real breakthrough for me, of letting go, really, and then getting myself focused on the hard tasks again, and the stuff that's really going to differentiate me. So in many ways, those constraints of like feeling I'm losing time if I ever was using it well in the first place, but getting back to this sort of laser focus of, Barry, you focus on your content creation and coaching, because that's the magic, and then build this production and support team around you to bring things to life. And that was probably a hard lesson for me to learn, but I feel like I'm coming out the other side of it. Well, hopefully.
I want to push on that.
Yeah.
This sort of virtual team does let you do more. But I know what you do. So about 3/4 of what you do is it's consulting.
Yeah.
And then you have your programs, your speaking, your public workshops, your licensing, your online courses and books, and then a little bit of board and advisory work. And then just from a glance, that looks like too much stuff to me. And then I noticed something about you. I share the same thing. We want to do more of the stuff that we love to do and less of the stuff that sucks our energy. And I think a big difference between the two of us, I love doing talks and workshops. Yeah. I get so much energy from that. And I think you're a little opposite from me. Anyways, if I forced you to take that laundry list of stuff, the programs, the speaking, the public workshops, the licensing, the online courses and books, and the board and advisory work, what's the stuff you'd cut? You're just not going to spend time on that next year. What would it be?
Well, you're spot on with the energy. I think that's a huge. It's almost like a metric I need to put on myself. But
can you tell us what things give you the most energy?
Without a doubt, I think the consulting, like helping teams and leaders actually get breakthroughs in their thinking and behavior or building new products. I love doing the programs because I spend 12 weeks with a team and see them evolve, like from month 1 where they're like, this stuff is crazy, to month 2 where they're starting to see progress, to month 3 it's habit for them, right? And it's,
tell me what a program is.
Yeah, so I run these programs, and some they're called Exec Camp, where I basically take teams through a 12-week program of them identifying potentially new business models, areas for growth, or products that they can build and launch to market. And to be honest, like, the product they create is just a vehicle for them to learn new sets of behaviors, mindsets, and ways of working. And often, many of the products that we'll come up with at the start of the program will die. And that's great. Like, if they die in the first week, it's gold. But, I've done these for British Airways, American Airlines, Iberian, I've done them for Verizon. And British Airways launched the first identity blockchain management tool. They've been amazing.
Okay, so it's a kind of extension of consulting. And the other thing I parse listening to you is you really like to help companies do the work.
Oh yeah, you're spot on.
Like, my thing is all about creative challenge. Like, how do I share, tools, models, and frameworks people so they can do the job better on their own? And like, I do not want to be a consultant, right? I mean, part of it is I love not having my calendar full of crap, right? Having 5 to 10 talks or workshops in the course of a month, perfect. But shoot me if I have to spend 3 days, actually working. That's the way I do consulting. Okay.
I love it.
Anyway, so that's okay. So we know consulting and programs are important. What's next year going to look like for speaking and public workshops?
Well, I think for me, the public workshops are something I'm just not enjoying as much. I like you. This is, I think, where we're sort of the opposites of each other, and which is great. Which is why I love bouncing ideas with you, right? And I just don't get so much from them. I feel like I'm sort of, it just, for me, it's sort of, I'm sharing a standard set of things, and people sort of take them and leave them. Whereas the program, I feel like we're on the journey, and again, it's like the board advisory. We're on the journey to create stuff. I think I'm a builder at heart, ultimately, and while I love sharing my lessons learned, that's what I feel like speaking and books are. I just package up all my experiences as a retrospective and push those out to people. I like, they're nice things to do, but I don't dream of them every night. I'm very proud of the books I've got to write and the experiences they capture. But I think, for me, it's always been about, I enjoy the uncertainty of figuring out how things work and building, and then writing and speaking is just encapsulating my lessons learned to share with people. And
I get it. So here's my question. If you love the consulting and you love the programs, what are the activities you have to engage in to build awareness and trial of you? Okay. So I'll tell you how it works for me. I do 83 talks a year to get 40 paid gigs. Yeah. That's why. And then I write on Medium because that builds an international audience. Okay. It's pretty simple. Now, it's simple today. I had no freaking idea that's how it would play out 3 years ago. Yeah. And honestly, the only reason I'm thinking about a book is just to just put a bow around it and boost me to the next level of credibility. Okay. So anyways, what are the activities you have to do to build awareness and trial of your consulting and your programs next year?
Yeah. And some of this is actually a bit of inspiration. One of the conversations I had with you, where you talked about this delighting customers in hard to copy, margin enhancing ways.
Yep.
The thing that I think is very, very hard for other people to copy with me is the case studies, is the examples of the actual work that I have done, because they're my stories, and they're with these companies, from startups like Slack and working with their executive team, right through to American Airlines, helping them through the pandemic, right? And nobody has those experiences but me. And that was one of my aha moments from one of our conversations. So I think the more, and people will see this more and more for me this year, is that I'm just going to be sharing like case studies, the stories, the examples of the missions I've sort of been through and what we've learned, because I think that's what matters to my customer. Because my customer is these senior execs who are facing tough challenges, and they don't need another Big Four consultancy to come in and show them how to, a 5-step model to transform their business. Like that, they've been through those sort of things so many times. But what they want is just ideas. Like you've been that exec, Gib, right? You just challenge me, give me some fresh ideas, connect me with other people who've been through this problem, and I think that's my hard to copy. And but again, sorry.
I've chewed on the same issue, which is what is hard to copy about the work that I do. And I'm aware, some people will, I'm very it's not hard to find all my stuff, right? All the PDFs, etc. And they'll turn around and they'll present it to their team. They go through the product strategy workshop, and then they'll do their best job to present it. I mean, I actually feel okay, because that's leveraged learning. It gives me more leverage.
Yeah.
But I've been chewing on the same thing. I do think that my skills as a teacher, I think they're kind of 1 in 100. Okay. I mean, I've always known I was a teacher. My first startup was a sailing school, help sailboat racers. And I think some of that is hard to copy. You're a natural storyteller. Most people aren't natural, right? And then how do you really teach, right? Anyways, now it is interesting. I used to think I would have to consistently do work, right? To develop, stay current and develop the, stories, the cases. And, I work with NerdWallet, Metro Mile, Life 360, Chegg. But increasingly, I noticed that, and I love cases, as do you. I create cases for Netflix today, even though I haven't been there in years, right? And I use Netflix because everybody knows it, so it's easier to understand the issues. But just people who can teach via cases, that's pretty unique, okay? It's an incredible teaching tool. And I think that's hard to learn how to do, okay? Anyways, I worry about the same thing. And frankly, another reason for writing the damn book is to give me more credibility for my tools, models, and frameworks, right? No, he's the one that created that Glee model. Anyways.
Well, this is I'll push on you here then, Gib, right? Because, most people probably listening and are observing, they're going to look at your career and go, right, this is a person who was involved in Netflix, before it became the monster, to help turn it into the company that it is today. Or you took a company like Chegg and brought it out to an IPO, right? This is the stuff that many product leaders would sort of dream of, right? This is sort of people be sitting there going, wow, imagine I could have that type of career. And what's really fascinating to me is, that you're still challenging or maybe uncertain of your credibility here, right? The next. So tell us a little bit more, what's in your mind there? What's that conflict?
It's a great insight. Okay, newsflash, everybody freaking has imposter syndrome. And the reason, and it's actually healthy. It's healthy to be anxious, to worry that you're not good enough, your stuff's not good enough. It sort of drives you. I mean, for me, I'm driven by creative challenge. My big challenge was, can I create a virtual experience that's as strong as in person? That's really all I did last year. You are correct. So first, thank you. For saying, Netflix worked out and Chegg worked out, and it's a bunch of stuff before that worked out. But on the other hand, I have found that communicating a degree of humility is really helpful and important to everybody in their career. So I will, I've actually learned this. I've almost tested it. I generally share about 70% success and 30% failure. Okay. If you look at any of my talks, and I've experimented with that ratio. If you do 50% failure, then you lower your credibility. And if you do 85% success, nobody really believes you. Okay. So I think some of that is hiding in there. And the other thing is I'm very careful. I really don't want to take credit for other people's ideas or work, right? Like when I was a product leader at Netflix, I was the person who was always investing my ideas in others as though they were theirs. So this is just kind of who I am stuff, right?
Well, there's one bit that jumps out.
You know who you are, right? You know what you're good at. You know what you suck at.
Well, I think this is like a real, like having gotten to know you over time, like the thing that always I really enjoy about it, because it is just who you are, right? There's a question here where someone's asking us what are our Myers-Briggs models, but I think what's more interesting, having to know you a little bit is like you live this. This is your life. This idea of natural experimentation, testing, and learning. I think it's probably one value behavior that we both actually probably share, where our businesses might be a bit different, but that sort of underlying mindset, mentality, method is probably something we both share. So can you tell people a little bit more about, like, because sometimes it's intuitive to people, like it's intuitive to you to work like this, and yet you systematize so many things, which I think is so unique about you. It's one of the things I enjoy most about you.
It came up about maybe halfway through my career, where I realized that we are products, okay, and that you should think about a career exactly the same way that you should think about building a product. And you're right. I always have a metric. So, what does success look like for me, this coming year? And then I'm maniacal about figuring out how to move that metric up and to the right. And for me, I don't know the answer to the question, but I'm really very willing to experiment with a lot of stuff to see what works. I mean, this is an experiment. This like having a career conversation in public. Yesterday I had an experiment with a new Ask Me Anything tool. I always learn, and I'm a freak. We will share the NPS survey at the end of this conversation and blast up a QR code because we want people's feedback, right? So I've been doing that, and frankly, so first thing is to have the goal, to have the metric, and then have maybe a fuzzy vision of the future, a strategy for how you might get there, and then it's just a bunch of projects or tactics, right? And I don't worry. Anyways, it's really fun.
It is fun.
Listening to you, I was thinking about my community and social needs. I realized like one of my pet projects is the Product Leader Summit. That brings together like 120 product leaders once a year. The NPS for that event has been consistently in the 80s, which is freaking like 50 is considered good or very good. But I realized in that experience, I have four of us work together, right? Dan and Sarah and Ha. It is funny. I go through that every year. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm a little wary about building out a virtual team, right? Because you are working with humans and, they're available, they're not. You ask someone to do something, they might do it, they might not. And so I think I really like, the simplicity of just me. Okay. Okay. Should we do a rapid fire on the Myers-Briggs just for fun?
Oh yeah, for fun. Yeah, God,
okay.
Yeah.
The first one, I am both an extrovert and an introvert, which is weird. It took me a long time, but I recharge by watching TV on a couch, and I'll recharge by getting together with other humans. Can you remind me, I think I'm an ENTP, or I forgot the questions in Myers-Briggs.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to remember some of them too as well. So did Jay put in
the chat? Remind us.
Remind us, and we'll answer them. But I'm definitely, I know I'm so similar to you, right? I do get energy from speaking with people and spending time with people. And this is maybe to the workshops. At the end of a workshop, I'm beat. You know, I'm ready. I'm ready to go home and just listen to a podcast or put on some music, or you know, so that I'm definitely on the line there.
That's interesting because I'm still like ready to go.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So, and I remember the P is judging or per
You know what?
question.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I actually, something I learned about tools, models, and frameworks, if they're helpful, you use them. They sell something, right? I actually don't think the Briars, that was that helpful to me, which is why I can't remember.
Yeah, nice. Extrovert, introvert, sensing, intuition. Yeah, definitely thinking, feeling.
I don't know. So what's the two choices?
So sensing or intuition.
Both. Oh, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah.
I sometimes I feel a little twisted because my mom can read people's palms. Like, she's so intuitive. It's like she can read people's brains. And my dad's like a freaking Harvard MBA. Sometimes I think I'm this really twisted combination of the two.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Let's get back. So my question of you, Barry, or let me tell you my questions. That's stuff I need help with. How important is it to upgrade my baby website?
I think from having gone through this process recently, I think you could have a really great reflection of your brand done very simply and quickly. And I think it'll turn you from I think that experience when people come to your website and like it's disjointed, and I think it you know, very small changes could make it be superstar.
Yeah. And I know the person who wants to rebuild it for me is watching right now, so right. I'll get back to you. Okay, how important is the damn book, Barry? 0 to 10.
I think the book is actually, it's an 8. And because I think it's both a personal, as you said, reflection and capturing your stories. I'm really looking forward to my kids reading it and telling me everything is wrong. So that's going to be fun. But the most important thing is it brings more people who care about the stuff you care about. That's what matters. And I think listening to you, that's what you're looking for. And it's a lightning rod for that. Okay.
So one of the things that I've been thinking about is, how do I bring more community to my work? Okay. So Lenny San's got his, his Substack thing. And for pay, you can be part of his Slack channel.
Yeah.
You did a Slack channel experiment this year.
Yeah.
Something you learned, and what would be a helpful way for me to build community, which is to say, all the product leaders I work with are actually more connected to each other, and they can be helpful to others on an ongoing basis. I've been able to do that with the Product Leader Summit, about a month a year.
Yeah.
How do you keep that kind of thing ongoing without sucking your time?
Okay. Yeah, and I think it's very, like, the persona, customer, whoever, I think is a huge point here. Because I was building a Slack community with CIOs and CTOs of Fortune 1000 companies, and guess what? They don't spend a lot of time hanging out in Slack. They're busy. And so, finding the right medium to connect with the audience is, I think, key, right? So where Lenny's like, these are people trying to learn product thinking, and they're on certain platforms. Sure, that's going to work for them, but I think that's an ongoing experiment for me. Trying to find the right medium to reach the exec, I think, is different.
So you think you can build a community? I call them muckety mucks, right? These people that are advanced in their careers, but you're not sure that Slack is the right way to do it?
I think the behavior that they're used to is spending a significant amount of money to be part of a mastermind of small group of people and peers that they can learn from, versus, I think, and a community of people who are earlier and looking to learn, and make more different platforms that they interact with. I just think they're different customers. Yeah,
I get it. And then you and I have talked about this before, but you've pressed me in the past. Hey, Gib, is your audience kind of product leaders in the first 5 years of their career? Or is your audience product leaders that are 15 or 20 years in?
Yeah.
Now, I answered the question to say both.
Yeah.
No. So I know you want to beat me up on this, but I like it. I get energy from helping the people that are early in their careers, and I get energy from helping people that are 15 to 20 years in. The way I'm doing it is the Product Leader Summit is for the muckety mucks, right? And most of my other work is, it's largely like the paid work is always people, maybe first 10 years of their career.
Yeah.
Generally bigger companies because they can afford to pay. Anyways, I'm saying next year, I'll probably, to your point, I'll be more disciplined about saying I'm going to build a community for muckety mucks this way and build a community for folks in the first 10 years of their career this way. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I guess the natural question is, Gib, which of those two audiences is more important? I'm anticipating you. I don't know. Do you have any insight on this?
Well, I know this is the fun part about what's different about our businesses, right? In many ways, for me, that the executive leader is my buyer, right? They're my number one customer. They're the people I'm targeting, right? So it's in many ways it's an easier choice for me. But I always appreciate that, the nature of what you're doing. It makes sense to have those different messages for different audiences because you have the credibility to speak to both, right? And I think that's unique about you too, right? So you're right. I love beating you up on this just for fun because I know I love seeing the conflict in your mind of like, but I think they're fair choices and. But that's what I've learned. And I see a question here about, what's the preferred channel for executives, or have you asked them and do they know? Well, I'm sure they know, but the thing I've learned here is it's not necessarily the medium, it's the quality. This is actually the thing that matters for executives. If you send them 10 minutes of a podcast, and it's funnily enough, one of me and Gid did a podcast when I first started my podcast 2 years ago. And the conversation we had on metrics, so many people constantly reach out to me and go, wow, that was so interesting, so helpful. And, so I took that segment and I send it to other execs and say, hey, you struggling with metrics? Just listen to this 10 minutes of this podcast. And so many people reply to me then saying, wow, that was really helpful for a problem I had in the moment. It didn't matter if it was a blog or a video or a podcast. It was what I needed for a problem I had. And I think that's what I've maybe learned more is reaching out to these time poor, challenged, overworked leaders with like a little nugget to help them move forward.
Yeah.
That's gold.
You'll love this. Like one of my most successful experiments last year was my 2-hour product strategy workshop. Okay.
Yeah.
Which the recognition is that these muckety mucks don't have 4 or 8 hours, right? And then playing off you on the metrics, I did this series on how to define your product strategy. I have all the data, and I can see a spike on the metrics chapter. And based on what you communicated to me on our little podcast talking about metrics and my little spike, I created a 2-hour metrics workshop. The very first one I did was like NPS of like 78. That's freakish. I mean, you expect like a 40, get the shit kicked out of you. So anyways, but this is the value of experimentation, right? Who would have known otherwise?
Well, I think it brings your mentality to life though as well, right? Like this is the way I think we think. Hopefully that can help people a bit.
Okay, so you probably noticed the same. There's a huge demand for mentoring and coaching, right? Paid, they'll pay. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, so coaching is a huge part of what I'm about. I think if you're coaching other people and you've never been coached yourself, I think you're a phony in some respects, I would say.
Yeah.
So, I've had, I worked with a writer to write my books to coach me. When we were having, our first kid, I actually did some personal coaching to figure out how I wanted to sort of balance my work and my life and how I was going to do that. When I started the business, I got a business coach to sort of educate me on parts of companies that I just didn't understand. From, like the US, it's very complex place to do business in terms of setting up your company. I moved here from Europe. I was unaware of a lot of everything from the tax requirements to just, how do I set up a company and get it running, right? So I think if you're not actively being coached, or that means you're not aware of where you need to grow and where you need help. And
so then, in your business, have you ever done sort of one-on-one coaching, mentoring for pay? Well, you're the coach.
So this is I in terms of like coaching people how to create this type of business, like the solopreneur business. For me, I think that's something I might explore in like 5 to 10 years time, to help people how to do that. But right now, I think that's not on my radar of a program I want to offer. Things like this, I hope, help people a little bit with that, but it's not on my energy or the 3 things I can actually get done list right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. There's huge demand for it, and I nicely ignore it because I'm deeply wary that I can get the leverage. Anyways, I was just curious. Okay, you've answered my question.
What about you though, Gib? Like, I know you practice a lot of this stuff, right? Like you wrote, again, when you wrote the blog, Hacking Your Product Career, I know you spend time with Patty, and you meet her every year, and she gives you a working over, as well. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself here? I think, because I think many people would be, like that's what's to this point that you mentioned, and I think we all feel imposter syndrome. We all feel like, if there's not a million leads coming in every day, no one's ever going to call me again. This time of year, January, everyone who's got a services business is sitting there going, is the phone going to ring? Is the phone going to ring? So, what do you, or how do you sort of deal with some of those things, both personally to grow and professionally?
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of things. I did have a plan, a fuzzy vision of how I wanted to lead my life. And that plan was when I was 52, I would achieve an age of independence and wouldn't have to worry about money. That I would have paid for a house and kids' colleges and med school and business school in order, and we had a financial plan that said as long as we didn't live past 120 years, we could do well. Okay. So that actually happened. So in the last 6 years, I have this weird relationship with money. I actually found that I have to use it as a way to make sure that people don't waste my time. And it's the only, I experimented with other ideas. It was the only way that people understood. And then the other is, am I creating value? So that's really, those are the 2 reasons I charge money. So to answer your question, I don't get anxious in January about my business because I'm not that worried about money. So then the question is what drives me, and it really is that creative challenge. To do. You can tell I'm agonizing over the book, but at the end of the day, I haven't written a book before, so that's a good creative challenge for me to handle.
Spot on.
So listen, I'm owning my white privilege at this point, right? Good setup. I try to work about half time, and I have other metrics. I try to scheme my age in days and backpack half of that. I try to be a good dad. I try to be like, now my wife and I have been in the same house forever. Like she has a high need for order, and we've never been in the same house all the time. So every morning I freaking make the bed and I don't put my clothes on the floor and okay. I embrace chaos more than that. Yeah. Anyways, the personal stuff. One thing I've learned is I I have to think out loud. I have to talk to people about stuff to really learn. Writing is a reasonable proxy, but the most important thing is the feedback I get from my writing. This is what, this is how I think. I also learned that writing and talks go hand in hand. I learned this from professors. They write to figure out their talk, and they do talks to figure out what to write about. And I have the same experience. It was actually a great insight from a Stanford professor, just nicely encouraging me to split my time between writing and talks. Anyways, and then I'm, because I'm, older and I have done some good stuff, I'm more confident than certainly I used to be. And then I'm able to put myself out there for feedback. You mentioned Patty. I do the walk on the beach. I was struggling. I had done Chegg, and I didn't want to go to work every day. I didn't want to collect direct deposit. Like, what the hell am I going to do? She's like, Gib, just tell people what you want. And that's when I started telling people, okay, I'll be your 3-day-a-week product leader, which felt preposterous, but really good insight from her. Because I got that from MetroMile. I got it from NerdWallet. I got it from Life 360. It worked, But this is why I talk to other people. And this is the concept of a personal board of directors. And then just writing that article on Modify helped me to frame my thinking, helped me to codify it. And then I hope, it's leverageable. What I think you had a couple questions that I want to make sure I have time to answer. You said you're experiencing a new brand. You're shaping a new brand for yourself, and does it come across as you? Okay. So 2 things. I don't know what your brand wants to be. Okay. So just talk about it, right? I mean, this is a very, my point, remember I used to be in marketing, you have to be so simple and so clear and so direct to help people understand who you are and how you can improve their lives, right? This is basic positioning and branding. So tell us who you are and how you hope to, improve people's lives. I want to know about the very brand.
Well, the thing that really stood out to me is that I help people embrace complexity to break through to growth and new product development. And that was one thing I learned about myself. And then the other thing I learned going through this whole process is that I am the brand in the solopreneur business. It's me. It's like that's. So I found myself going back and actually writing my principles, my values, what were the things that I care about, what sort of reflects me. And it was a really in many ways it felt very uncomfortable for me, because I don't like talking about myself. I find it quite difficult in many ways, but yet in a brand that's really important for people to understand me and what I'm about, and that's what helped me sort of develop these principles for myself, where I was explore your edge, right? I believe innovation happens on the edge, the thresholds of skills, knowledge, capabilities. You've got to explore your edge if you're going to work well with me. Or embracing uncertainty. I think uncertainty is opportunity. And so when you face it, you've got to act, not wait, stop. Learn by doing. Trying and making mistakes is actually part of the process. And these kind of principles for me were really helpful to the point now where the things I lead with when I'm talking to companies to say, look, if you don't believe in these things, if we're not values aligned, I'm not the person to work with, because we're not going to have collaboration fit. And it's actually been a huge breakthrough for me to recognize who's not my customer, right? And so I'm doing the best work with people who are values aligned, who recognize to these ideas, creative pursuits, that going through the process is part of the journey, right? There is no guaranteed results. There is no, the product will be ready on the 1st of January and have all the features that you want, as you described 2 years ago. Those people are not the people to work with me. And I guess it's sort of given me confidence to say that, where I before I felt like it was wrong to do that, or I couldn't do that. But actually that's been a huge breakthrough for me. Now you mention it,
Well, it's funny because, this is my whole thing. You are the product, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, we are humans, right? We're not totally self-aware, but as we get older, we develop a better sense of who we are, what we enjoy, what we don't, and we slowly develop the confidence to just tell people that, right?
Right on.
Um,
Right on.
so yeah, I don't know how to nudge people along that path. I don't know if you noticed this, but Reid Hoffman, Josh Ellman, Hunter Walk, they all published their operating manual. Have you seen that?
I saw Reed's. I haven't seen the other two's. Yeah, and I admire their share,
Yeah,
what they
that was
share as
interesting
well.
because it kind of gives a roadmap. I mean, I did answer the question, how do you develop a relationship with a mentor on Substack recently? And I just tried to decode myself. Like, these are the things and the kinds of people I'm interested in, and here's the angle to get my attention and time. Newsflash. It's good if you're Black, Latinx, or a woman, right? But I was trying to be transparent. Anyways, have you succinctly communicated, your brand, your positioning, your operating manual, and have you made that public?
It's all on the website, but I
Okay.
haven't sort of packaged it to like you say, it almost like a pitch deck in many ways, right? And that's definitely an experiment for me this year. Like, I want to grow my business through like 60% net new customers, right? I feel like that's the next, that's how I want to develop the company. And in many ways I did the branding to position myself to find those people, right? So that's going to be maybe something for me to report back to you on in the coming months and weeks, but it's a great nudge, absolutely. So what I want to ask you then, as we're getting close to time here, what's sort of the top of mind focus for you, or something you'd like help with?
Well, you can tell I'm not an idiot. I can self-manage myself, but you're reasonably well, but not perfectly. You and I are both keenly motivated by the things that interest us the most, right? And ideally, the things that interest the most are most important to do, but it's never perfect. So anyways, you've nudged me a little, like, frickin' polish your damn website, right? Because another thing going on there, it will force me to tell my story without the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Right? That'll be helpful. Frickin' write the damn book. Almost the same reason, but to help build the credibility. So those are two things where you're nudging me. Do you have any insight on collecting emails?
Yeah, well, you've got the ultimate hack of all time, I think, right? Where we just got to stick up a QR code, and then people will automatically share it. You've nailed it, right? I have nothing more I can add on that one. There's one question we haven't answered from Ian here, and he asks, what product skill set do you think are the most in demand right now, and why?
Honestly, let me just articulate the product skills that I look for: technical skills, management skills, creative skills, business skills, marketing skills, and consumer science skills. That's the insight. If you force me, I would say it's the consumer science skills. The last 10, 15 years, the art and science around really developing customer insight, it's really hard to do. It's gone on drugs from a statistics point of view. Think about, personalization and machine learning. So that's a rare and developing attribute, and it's going to get even more important in the future. And then the wild one is creative, the creative skills. I still don't, I don't know if, I think you can train yourself to take on more risk and try more stuff, but I think there are inherently creative people and some that aren't naturally creative. That's the hardest skill to develop.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Yeah, I think, that's great. All right, well,
can I tell you my nudges to you?
Please, yeah.
I would consciously try to cut down the list of non-consulting program work. just be very mindful about how many things you're doing in parallel. Okay. So at the very least, force rank it. Okay. I mean, I just listened to a thing from Keith Raboy, early at PayPal. Peter Thiel would insist that everybody only have one thing that they were working on at any moment in time. And the reason was, as humans, if you give you two things, you'll work on the thing that you like working on most, which might be number two. Okay. So anyways, at the very least, force rank it. The next one is, I told you my family hack. After my wife and I invested in college, business school, med school, we invested in a nanny. It's a little embarrassing. We still have a nanny, and our kids are left the house, right? But that gave that investment was as important as any of those school investments, and about the same amount of money. Anyways, you might think about when next year you might have somebody who's dedicated to your kids, so your wife and you can each focus on your careers. It's not that much money, but think of it as an investment in your dual careers. So that's been a big life hack for me. Yeah, my wife and I spend a lot of time encouraging people to take that step. Within 5 or 10 years, you're like, oh my God, it's the smartest thing I ever freaking did. So I
appreciate that, Gib. I think it's both. My wife does important work, right? She works for the World Health Organization, pandemic response, and I think you're.
My wife's only trying to cure cancer, so
yeah, they're good people. As they say, we're just optimizing monthly active users. So hey, what are we gonna do about it?
Click on this thing, damn it!
Right, here we go. So again, Gib, it's been super fun to have you on the show.
Can you ask for feedback?
Yeah, here we go. So everybody who wants to click on the live stream, you can sort of share up and grab this, or else if you click in the link here, you'll get a nice sort of.
Here's how you ask for feedback, Barry.
All right, I'm here. Let's go.
We're dropping a link into the chat messaging on the YouTube stream. Barry and I would desperately love feedback. This is an experiment. We're not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, and we really, really love your feedback. For me, this is my 650th Net Promoter Score survey. This is how I learn. This is how I weed out the bad ideas and the good ideas. Thank you in advance for your amazing feedback. It's so helpful to us. Okay, that's how you ask.
That is.
Oh, by the way, 0 sucks and 10 is great, because some people flip the scale by mistake. Okay, pick any number you want, and then give us one thing you liked about this conversation and one thing that can make it better. That's how you ask.
Gib, it's always a pleasure to spend time with you, and I've learned so much today, and hopefully it's encouraged and inspired people.
QR code for folks too?
Oh yeah, it's been up there while you're sharing. It's all been there.
Share the link that they can click on, or blast up the QR code. The way to make the QR code work is you hold up your camera as though you're taking a photo with your camera app, and a link will magically pop up. Click on that, and you'll have instant access to the survey.
Love it. All right, Gib, it's been great. I will see you on our next version of this, and whatever time we bring it back together again. Thanks for your time. And
thanks for daring to do this. It's been great fun for me. My hope is that we've given a little bit of advantage of what these personal board of directors conversations look like. And honestly, a number one career hack for me is I always have 5 to 10 people I can count on, peers and mentors. Barry's been both a peer and mentor, because recognize 2 or 3 years ago, I was brain dead stupid about how to do talks, workshops, right. And so Barry was way ahead of me, which is why I reached out to him.
Well,
the way we work is very slow emails back and forth. So it's been an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure, Gabe, getting to know you, more and more through this process. And I look forward to continuing these conversations in the weeks and months ahead. So thank you very much, everybody. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll see you again soon. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.